I think I would like to get, officially started and maybe just have a bit of introduction of ourselves, who is in the room. So we're going to start this live stream now. And let me introduce myself. I'm Jankus Hullekie, and I'm a teacher at Fashion and Textile Technologies. I've been working in the industry for many years before I was joining Saxion about 10 years ago. I'm responsible for buying, sourcing, sustainability, and a lot of other projects. And today I'm sort of co-hosting together with my colleague and Jenna. We're co-hosting this live stream with you. So maybe Didi, you can also introduce yourself.
Yes, of course. Welcome to you all. My name is Didi Pauwe and I'm working at the course Fashion and Textile Technologies. I'm responsible of the students' guidance part within the course and somewhat about the research part. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat and we will help you to answer your questions. Thank you.
And Jenna?
Yeah, I'm Jenna. I'm studying fashion and textiles. I'm in second year now, and I'm an international student from South Africa originally.
Okay, thank you. So this is basically meant to be an opportunity for you to ask questions and to understand in more depth, what it is that the course is all about. So there's a lot of information online available, which you might have explored already. If not, I definitely suggest to go there. You might have seen the video that was shot in regards to this open day, but there's a lot of extra additional material as well. This session, however, is really an open session where you can ask questions to us, and just fire away. Max already asked some questions about, the balance between international students and Dutch students, and we just highlighted that. But any other questions in terms of the program, in terms of content, in terms of schedule, do feel free to ask that. Yeah, so this isn't something where we are preparing a PowerPoint for you, but this is an open session where you can ask questions. On the internet, you will find also a sort of a top 5 questions. So there's already a bit of information which is relevant to the course in terms of what are you able to do after the study is finished. What sort of role can you enter, and also a weekly schedule. So also make use of that information, but because I think that's also helpful for you guys. But without me talking too much, ask your questions. So don't hesitate. And you can either ask the question, but maybe it's best to ask the questions in the chat. I think it works best without, disturbing the line or whatsoever. And if you want to add on to it, then feel free to open it up. So, is there specific questions from your end that you're entering this live stream in? Max, okay. What's the male to female ratio in students for this program? Jenna?
It's a lot of female. I think in my class we have 2 guys, and in the other class I think there's 3 guys. So I think in total in the international course there must be 5 or 6 in second year. But in first year there was a few more, but they left. Okay. But yeah, definitely girls like 80 to 90%.
Yeah, and Max, to just add on to that, it's not necessarily means that it's only about seasonal colors and fashion and trends, etc. It's really, there's also technical stuff in the course that you need to be familiar with. And obviously, like Didi is adding now, we've seen a few more men entering the course in the last years, but it's still limited. But yeah, that's the status as we speak. welcome all of you that joined in just now as well. So we just actually starting already. So basically what I've just said is that this is an open session where you can ask your questions, and we just basically said to ask the questions via the chat box in this live stream. So please feel free to ask any questions, things that you maybe came across on the internet and that you want to find out more. And if there's no questions, yeah, sorry, Elena, thank you. After graduating, will I be able to work in another country than the Netherlands, or is it a little bit difficult? Jenna, you want to say something to that question?
I mean, I haven't graduated yet, but I think you can work anywhere in the world. I think the fashion industry is worldwide, so yeah, I don't think that will ever be a problem that I know of.
No, and I would definitely agree to that, Elena, because I think, like Jenna is saying, it is an international industry, and I would actually doubt when you're coming from abroad, studying here in the Netherlands. Yes, there's also international companies that are located in the Netherlands as well. Like Tommy Hilfiger's got the European headquarters in Amsterdam, so that's and so does Nike. But apart from that, there's tons of other companies around the world which are involved in fashion and textiles. So and given the fact that you are going to do this course in English, if you're signing up for the English version, then obviously you will work in a company where English is number one language. And lastly, Elena, to add to that as well, we really emphasize that working together with people from different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds as well, I think is a definite benefit from attending the international version of the course as well, because that is quite important. When you're going to deal with production locations in the Far East or in other areas of the world, then you will need to understand what it means to work internationally. Is that answering your question enough, Elena? Feel free to ask further. Great, thank you. There's a question from Anna Babilua. I've already been admitted. Are any deadlines of a room booking in campus for the academic year? How to open a student account in the Netherlands? Is it possible to join some clubs and Rotary Club or others? Even more language, please tell. There's a lot of practical, so good questions in there. Didi, would you mind, maybe answering them via the chat? While we'll continue a little bit, and then we can maybe elaborate on that.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Thanks. So there's questions popping up. Is there a difference between the Dutch and English course regarding the content? Essentially, there is no difference between the English course and the Dutch course, except of course when it comes for the Dutch course, we teach English lessons, so like grammar, etc., which we will not cover, if I'm not mistaken, Jenna.
No, we do that as well.
Okay. But,
yeah, we also do business English.
But I think in addition there is a bit more on presentation skills, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, it's not based solely on learning the English language, because most people already know.
Yeah, but essentially, Marisak, the differences are minimal, and if I'm so there's also Dutch students that are enrolling for the English course because they want to pick up the challenge and do the course in English because they are good at English or they would like to improve their English. And let me also comfort you there, because you don't need to be an English expert. Yeah, in fact, you will learn English along the way as well, and especially if you're working in the international course with international students, then you will pick up pretty fast, the English language as well. So Maite is also wanting to know what the difference between the English and the Dutch program are. Yeah, so is that enough answer on your question, Marisak and Maite? Not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Okay. And we are there to support you with your English. Yeah, we do understand that may, for non-native speakers, that sometimes may be challenging, but we will support you with that. So keep on asking your questions. Until there are questions, we will pick. I would just like to ask Jenna, what is your overall idea on the course so far? You're in the second year.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's really broad, so you learn a lot of different spheres of the fashion industry. So I would say the most important thing for students coming in to know, it's not a design school. You're not going to learn how to be a fashion designer. That is a small part of some projects. So there is obviously opportunity to be creative, but I think it's important to know that it's very technical and much more about developing like an industry professional and how you develop collections, source materials, sourcing from other countries, and sustainability is also a big part of it. So I really like that.
Okay, thank you. And you emphasized, that it's not you're not becoming a designer. Why did you want to emphasize that?
I think because a lot of students that I saw coming into first year last year thought that they were in a fashion design school, and I think that fashion to textiles, it's much broader than that. You do design obviously for the collection projects and for the buying project you make the designs, but it's important to know that it's much more than that. You learn the business side of it. Also, the textiles is a huge part, and your material development, which is really interesting. I find it super interesting and fun. So I think if other people are interested in that, a good idea to study this.
Yeah. Okay. Good. No, I just wanted to touch on that because I think indeed, to your point, not becoming a fashion designer, I think is quite important to emphasize. But you will learn creative skills. You will also learn Adobe skills because you will need that to work as well with the factories overseas to write up specifications for the product that you are making. And just to add on that, it's not just fashion as in clothing, but it's a lot broader. Thereby, the title is also fashion and textiles, but the application of textiles in any sort of end product, and that could be interior textiles, that could be very technical textiles, and then you need to think of composites, and then you need to think of very specific applications, or workwear or sportswear. And obviously sportswear is a combination of both fashion, but especially also performance. There's certain characteristics in the product for sportswear that help that enhance the performance of the wearer. Yeah, so it's a broad scope of applying textile materials in different end users. So just going to pick up a few questions there. How many students? Yeah, sorry.
I answered Anna's question, but unfortunately, I don't know every answer on the questions. Maybe Jenna can tell a little bit more about how to open a bank account in the chat.
Sure. I'll just type it then.
Okay. So Jenna is going to answer that one. Max is asking, how many students do you accept? How many people are in one class? So how many students do you accept? If there is a good fit between yourself and ourselves, there's no formal entry, how do you say that, requirement or procedure. And Didi, maybe you can talk about that as well. So if you think this is the right course and you have done your research, then you can sign up for it.
Yes. We don't have a maximum of students who can participate in the first year. So you are very welcome to join. And yeah, we don't have a maximum amount of students who can accept.
Yeah, there's no selection procedure.
No.
Yeah. I think that's important to note. How many people are in one class? I think that depends on the type of class. I think if it includes computers, I think it's 16 still.
Yes, 16 students in one class. You have a class of 16 students and you have a personal study coach. In the other classes, you have sometimes a lecture of, let's see, 16 for the practical lessons and 33 of the more informational classes. So yeah, it depends on which type of class you are following at the moment. So, but most of the time you have classes with 16 students.
Thank you. And I think it's good to also mention in that respect that there is a combination of individual work and group work. Yeah, so right from the start, you will be doing both. Yeah, so there is individual subjects that you will follow. There's individual exams that you will take, but we also start immediately uh, um, with groups where you work together on project. In fact, not completely. So the year is split up in 4 periods of 10 weeks. We call them quartiles, and every quartile there is theoretical subjects and there is projects that you're doing. The projects are always done as a group except for the first project, right, Didi? The first project still individually?
Yeah, the first project is individually, and the other projects we will do in of 6 to 8 students. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the first 2 years are built up like that. Yeah, it's like every quartile you will follow theoretical lessons on basic textiles, on commerce, on English, presentation skills, Adobe skills. And at the same time, there's going to be a project where you will be working together in a group. And we really find that very, very important that you're able to learn with people with different backgrounds and to come up with a result, because that's also what's needed in the industry. You need to work together to reach a certain end result. And that is sometimes challenging, but that also makes it fun. I don't know. I want to address Marisa's questions. Are there also things that you don't like about the study program? I think it's a very honest and good question. So let's give her an honest answer. What things you don't like, Jenna?
Oh, me. What things I don't like? Okay. I don't know. I would say it's really hard work, and the research based projects can be a little bit tedious sometimes. I think for some people they enjoy research, but for me it's not really my cup of tea. But yeah, there's a lot of self-study that goes in. Obviously, you have to study for textile exams, and yeah, I think the research is the main thing for me.
Okay, can you elaborate a little bit on that, Jenna? When you say research, that's such a broad term. What don't you like about it?
Oh, this is hard. A lot of our projects, you have to have evidence for what you're saying. So for into the future, I've just finished this project. We had a company, Tommy Hilfiger, and they gave us a problem, and that was that they wanted bio-based solutions for petroleum-based fibers, because obviously polyester and polypropylene isn't the best for the environment. So we had to interview people, do surveys, focus groups, and that's the fun part. I like that part, but then it's the tedious part is typing all of it up into a transcription and then doing research into many different like fibers and solutions that can be used for Tommy Hilfiger. So I think it's just the fact that it's very tedious and yeah, it's hard work, but I wouldn't say it's like breaker for me. I think it's just part of life. I think any university you have to do research. So
Okay.
I think, yeah.
And if I can just add to that, I think that's the reason why we want to make sure that you understand what it takes to do proper research is really that we want you to become critical professionals. And you might know there's a lot of things going wrong in the industry, in the fashion industry, in terms of labor circumstances, in terms of environmental issues. And we, as an education course, together with the industry, would like to address that situation. And to be able to overcome that and to think of solutions, you need to do proper research and you need to actually assure that you know what you're talking about and that you understand what the specific background of these typical issues are. And this is also what companies are asking for. Companies that you might want to work for, they need critical people, people that are able to think out of the box, but also know the facts and also know what it takes to to come up with solutions. So that's just to add, and we do. So Jenna is not the only one. When it comes to research, where especially the specifics, the details, it requires a lot of time to come up with writing that properly down. But it is necessary to create the change in that we all want in the industry.
Yeah. Just to add, I just saw the question now because I was typing the other answer. My expectations of coming into the program were a little bit different, mostly because I didn't do very in-depth research and I didn't go to an open day. But I was surprised at how much more technical it was, but I actually was pleasantly surprised because I felt that I really didn't know a lot about fashion before I came in, and after being at Saxion for just a year, I feel like I've gained so much knowledge and so much. Like when I go into a store now, I will know, okay, they're using these fibers, that means it's not sustainable, it means it's sustainable. And you have a much more in-depth idea of how your clothes come, how they're made and how do they get to your hands. And I think that's also really useful if you want to ever start a business. I think we learn quite a lot of, the different spheres. So I think that's really interesting and useful.
Okay. Thank you. Max, you have a question regarding what Jenna said in the video message as well. She was designing clothing for babies. Was that a choice by the student or by the teacher? So the projects, and this was, I think, a project, right?
Yeah, that was for.
And were you given the baby clothing collection, or was it an option?
We were given, so in first year, the collection project, it's for kids, babies and toddlers. So they split into different groups. And yeah, so we were given babies. So yeah, you don't get to choose in that project, but for the collection project, I think now in second year coming, I think it's for adults, or I'm not sure yet. We haven't got our brief yet, but yeah, they do set the projects for you each quarter and give you some specifications.
But we would like to. So I guess the question is also about how much can I do choose my own path in the projects or in the study as well. We do encourage you to think out of the box. In fact, the projects you will find are not always from A to Z 100% given. We have, of course, we have a certain framework that we expect. We have definite outcomes that we want to see from each and every project, but there is different ways to reach the end result. And I'm not sure, Jenna, if you can confirm this, but we would like to actually give students the opportunity to choose their own path to some extent as well. And especially in the roles that you are choosing within the project, there is options to choose. Because within each of the projects, we also identify professional roles. And those roles could be a merchandiser, a designer, a product developer, a sourcing specialist, a material engineer. And those are sort of defined along the lines of the industry. Yeah, so that you get to be exposed a little bit to how it works in real life as well. Yeah, so there you will find, just to add on to Max's question, there you will find flexibility in terms of choosing your own path.
Yeah, and also in first quarter you have a completely free project in first year, so you do have the freedom to sort of do what you want in some projects. And also then the materials project, you choose a problem and then you solve it. So again, that gives you freedom. If you want to make a jacket or a hat or something, then you can tell them what the problem is and then make up the solution.
Okay, and then we talk a lot about the first 2 years, obviously, which are sort of the foundational years, the basic years of the program. The third and the fourth year are much more open in terms of what you want to do first. So the third and the fourth year consists of an internship of 6 months, of a minor period of 6 months, of a smart solutions program of 6 months, and then finally the last piece is fixed in the sequence as well. The last piece of the education is your final thesis. But from the third year onwards, you are able to choose your own path as well. And then depending on what you preferred from the first 2 years, you will choose an internship company that fits you. Yeah, and if you like to work a lot behind the sewing machines, and not everybody likes that, but if you do, then you would want to choose something in product development at a big fashion brand.
Mm.
But if you like to
Also, with your minor, you can choose what university you want to go to, because they have so many options. And then they also have the option of the more creative side. So if you want to go and do fashion design itself, then you can have that semester to add to your education if that's what you want to do.
Picking up on a quick one from Marita, are there many Dutch students in this course? We started off this live stream saying that the split between the international and the Dutch course is about 70% of students are in the Dutch course and 30% in the international. And from the 30%, do you know any sort of rough number or percentage that would be Dutch?
That's very difficult to say.
Would be 25% or?
Yeah, maybe 20 to 25, I guess.
Yeah, I think along those lines, right? So
Yeah.
there's a good few students that are picking up the challenge to do the international course, even though they're Dutch.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them.
Yeah. Okay. Bobette is asking, do you have to make a test for your English before you start with the study? I don't think that's the case, is it, Didi, or?
No, I
No,
guess.
I think it is. It depends where you come from.
Yes.
If you have gone to an English school, then you just need to get a certificate from your school saying that it's in English. But if you are at a different language school, you have to do, I think, some exam. But I can't remember what the name was.
Okay.
But I think
okay.
this.
Thank you, Dennis. So there is, eh?
Yeah, I think it depends what language you are, I think.
Okay. Didi, could you find out maybe is there something on the internet? Yeah. Okay.
I will
Thank
search on the internet.
I'm just checking the chat if there's any questions that we didn't follow up on yet. Santia is asking right now, I'm doing international business courses. How many total points I should get to apply for this one? I'm not sure if I'm understanding you correctly.
No, I think IB courses is a type of high school.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many points, but I think I have no idea actually. Sorry.
We will figure that out for you, Santia, because I think that has to do with entry requirements, right, Didi?
Yeah.
Also for the international students.
Yes.
We're going to look that up for you. Maybe it's possible to get in touch with the student first in order to ask some household issues. Anna, you're asking whether it's possible to get in touch with first-year students. Absolutely, I think that is possible. I think the organizing part, I think, is something we would need to find out. Obviously, Jenna herself, you know, second-year students. So I think Jenna would also be available outside of this session.
Yeah, you can. Maybe I can leave my email address, and then if you want to ask any questions.
Use your Saxion email, right?
Maybe it's good to also mention my email address too. If you have questions that are being answered yet, please send me an email, so we will look the answer of your question. So I will type it in right now.
Yeah, and we can remain in this room actually until 12 maximum, right? So it was scheduled from 11 to 11:30, but I understood that we are allowed to go beyond. I'm okay with that, so I'm available.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So no worries. You don't need to log out. You can just stay here until you're satisfied.
Answer to the English test to apply for the course. Maybe I don't know if we can mention our colleague's email address from Ms. Eikelenkamp, Jan Chris. Yeah, because she knows everything about entering the course of Fashion and Textile Technologies for international students. So if you have questions about joining the course and doing the international English tests, so you can ask them.
Okay. Yeah. Will you list the email address of Evelyn? Didi?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we get that covered. Thank you. Max, you have another question as well. In the video, you said that you go through the entire process, designing a product to holding the finished product in your hand by sending a package to a partner school in Vietnam, etc. Is that correct? Jenna, is that correct?
Yes, that was the buying project of the second year. So you design a range plan and even a pop-up store and like a store, online store. And then you choose one design, send to the partner university, and you have to make a technical specification of this product. So you do all of the technical packs and measurements and designing it, and then you send it to, we had India, and then you had to obviously have many Skype calls and talk to them, and then they can communicate with you how it's going and what they didn't find clear about your technical pack and what they think that you should do, and if something's wrong then you can talk about it. So that's cultural communication, which is also a big part of the study. And then they send it back, and I mean a lot of groups didn't get their product in the end. I think there was some issues with China at the time, but we got ours, and it was really successful. Like the design almost matched the product perfectly, which we were really proud about. But I found that really fun.
Is that any further question, Max, to that? Any specifics? So you really are going to experience what it takes to communicate with different cultures, and those are the cultures where a lot of the fashion products are being produced. And so going through that process and going through the challenges that you will be exposed to, like Jenna is saying, some of the product that didn't make it in the correct quality. Well, that's exactly what is happening in reality as well. So we want to make the projects work that you are attending as real as possible. Maite, you're asking a question. How's the student guidance? For instance, when a small group is not working very well, do you try to interfere? My first answer would be yes, of course. We will coach you. And I'm going to hand to Didi in a short bit, because I think she has a lot more experience with that as well. That's part of the group work and part of the challenges of trying to get everybody on the same page. And Didi, maybe you can talk a little bit about how we coach that.
Maybe it's good to answer the question by Jenna, and I will add because there is a question about a meet and greet, and I will answer that in the chat. And further on, I will add Jenna about the group work.
So yeah, that can be an issue. Obviously, group work is difficult, and especially in first year, there was quite a few issues. But we do have study coaching, so we had like regular meetings with our teams, with our study coach, and then you talk about your issues and how it's going, and also the show and checks you have every few weeks to get feedback on what you've done so far. And then yeah, if you do have an issue, you can email the project leader. So that's what we had to do 1 year, and we had the proof that the group wasn't working well and that only a few students were doing work, and they solved it pretty easily. They just gave us a new group, and yeah, it's the coaches and the lecturers are there to help you. So
they just gave you a new group. Wow.
Well, it was at the end of the one project, and so.
Okay. So is that always how we solve things, Didi? Just getting
no,
a new
not
group?
necessarily.
No, I think it's important to note, right, that there is a variation in terms of how we coach. Yeah, and we definitely first want students to continue to work together and go through the challenge, and overcome some of the challenges. And where are the difficulties lying? That's what we are exploring, and Didi can talk more about that, how we do that.
Mostly in the first year, we have the tutor guidance with your study coach, and you will talk a little bit more about how you collaborate, what the difficulties are that you struggled with, and mostly there are some small aspects you can handle within the conversation, and sometimes you have to search for the project leaders, for example, Jenna told. But mostly you will ask your study coach to help, and most of the problems will be solved very soon. In the second year, for example, by the project Into the Future 2, Jenna just finished the project. You will have a lecture that will help you every week. So if you have something that you, if you cannot further with your project process-wise, you can get help, or the teacher will help you a little bit further. So there's a lot of attention for group work and guidance within the projects, also individually guidance. So you have an individual meeting with your study coach every 10 weeks, and you will talk a little bit more about your personal development, your learning goals, everything that you have to know for your study, for your course, and to develop yourself, to get to make a good decision for your minor, your internship, your smart solutions project in the third and fourth year. So there's a lot of attention for your personal development. Yes.
And that's, besides the whole functional aspect of the course, that's equally important, because you need to become a critical professional, but you also, in order to become that, you will also need to understand where do you sit yourself, in terms of what type of personality are you? Are you direct, indirect? Are you always wanting to say something, or are you a little bit waiting and seeing? And there is no right and wrong there. It's just that you need to start learning how you operate in groups of people as well. And I think and a lot, as you can expect yourself, is down to communication and making agreements about how do you want to communicate with each other, and how do you set deadlines within a project, and that's really mirroring the real world, because that's equally important there. And there you will also deal with different characters, and you don't have to all have to be each other's friends, as long as you can work together on a professional level and get your things done. And that is challenging. So like Didi is saying, in the first year, that is definitely gonna be a big challenge. However, we're there to support you on those challenges as well. You know, we
Also,
don't.
it gets,
Yeah, go ahead.
it gets a lot better. I think like by the third quarter, everyone's used to working in groups, and now in second year, it's actually better, I find, to work in a group because you don't feel like you have all the weight on your shoulders. And if you have a good team and you work together well, it's a good atmosphere, I think, to work in.
Okay. So feel free, if I know it's past 11:30, and if you have to leave, then don't feel pressured you have to stay on. But if you want to hang on, that's okay with us. The question from Max: how big are the project groups? 6 to 8 people, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Max is also asking where are most of the international students coming from? A few Germans, South Africa. Anna is from South Africa. And there's some international overseas students as well, right, Didi?
Yeah, we have students from China, everywhere. So
Mexico, France.
So a good mixture of different cultures. I'm just scrolling the chat. Is there anything left that we haven't?
Someone asked about the BSA from first year.
Say that again, Jenna.
Someone asked how many credits do you need to pass the first year, and is there a BSA?
Yes.
Okay.
There is. Yeah. You have to get 84 credits in the first year.
48.
40.
Yeah. It's not possible in the first year. I'm sorry. 38 credits in the first year, and there is a BSA, yes. But if you have personal circumstances why it's not possible to get the amount of points, you will get in touch with your study coach, and maybe there's something possible to, I don't know how to say it in English, Jan Chris, a temponorm, uitgesteld advies.
Yeah, so then you will be an exception case, and we will deal with that accordingly. And just for the rest of the group, I'm not sure if everybody is aware of BSA, but that's a binding study advice.
Yeah.
So making sure that you have enough credits to stay on track, and each year you get 60 credits in total that you can get. Yeah, for the first year you need to have 48 minimum to pass on to the next year.
A question from Obette: is there a benefit if you choose for the English course when you come from the Netherlands? Yes, I think so. It's an international working field, so you have benefits if you choose the English course. But yeah, it don't mind. The content of the course in English is the same as the content in Dutch.
Yeah, to add on that, Didi has already said that, right? The industry is English. Most of it is English speaking, so it's definitely a benefit if you've done the course in English. However, also on the other side, it doesn't mean that the Dutch course is, sort of a minor or is perceived less than the English course. It's just a different. It's a choice. It's a personal choice. And also mind you, if you take the Dutch course, we will also have in the second year the projects will also be English. So also there we find it important enough that you start picking up on English in the study as well.
Actually, to add to that, the Dutch, we did the buying project with the Dutch course, so we were split into groups together.
Yeah, so there the international course and the Dutch course were blended, right, for the projects.
Yeah.
Max asking other
that the projects are in English in the second year, so maybe we can answer Anna's questions right away. Is it necessary to know the Dutch language if you do the English course? No, it is.
No.
It's not. No.
No.
And do you know any Dutch words, Jenna?
Yeah, I do.
But that's because you're South African.
Yeah, I know. I started the Saxion has like a little Dutch course that they offer
Okay.
so I signed up for that.
And how was that?
It was good. I think it was easy for me because of Afrikaans, but
Yeah.
it was useful, I think.
And was that so that was an optional course that you took on your own?
Yeah. Yeah, it was something extra, so you also did have to pay a little bit, but it was very cheap for
Okay.
level, yeah.
And was it only language, or was it also a bit of the Dutch culture, etc.? Because that
It
might
was a
also
bit
be
of
interesting.
everything, yeah. It was meant to just be the language, but obviously you learn part of the Dutch culture because the teacher is Dutch, and then he tells you all about the Dutch life and things.
Yeah. Okay. And I think it's good to mention as well that Saxion is organizing also events for international students where to to pick up on Dutch culture as well, so that you really, while you're studying here, that you will also be able to learn a little bit about the background and the country that you're living in, and trying to unite the students from the international countries.
Yeah, that's
Mark?
true.
Yeah. Yeah, Max, you're asking, are the teachers Dutch or also internationals? Most of them are Dutch. There's a few English teachers as well. And one of the technical teachers is coming from India, and there's a native English-speaking teacher doing English classes as well within our course. But the
And
majority is Dutch.
German.
Sorry, and German. Yeah,
Yeah.
and teachers also from with a German background. Yeah. Maite, can you switch from the English course to the Dutch course if you have language problems? I would like to say yes, but Didi knows better.
Yes, there's an opportunity. Not many students are switching from the English course to the Dutch course. Last year we have in the first quarter we have a student who was following the international course, but it was a little bit difficult for her, so she switched to the Dutch course within the second quarter. So yeah, it is possible. Yes.
And that might be a comfort for you to know, so
Yeah.
that's always in the back. But do keep in mind that we are there to support you, that we are there to help you to make it happen. If you have chosen for the English course, then it's a pity if you need to switch, and that's our last resolution. But we are there to support you on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we covered most of the questions. I'm just leaning on some of the top 5 questions that we have prepared as well. Yeah, one of the top 5 questions I would like to emphasize as well is the importance of sustainability in the course. We've received a certificate for sustainable higher education, and that basically means that sustainability is woven into all of the subjects and the projects of the course. So that means that there's a high emphasis on sustainable raw materials, labor practices in the factories overseas. So it's a big theme. So if that is important for you, then definitely we are spending a lot of time about that in our course. And it does not mean that we have all the answers. In fact, the industry doesn't have all the answers, but it does mean that we are supporting you to come up with new creative ways of looking at some of the problems that are happening in the industry, to become, again, I'm repeating myself, a critical professional for the industry. So I just wanted to add that as a last comment from my side. Last question from Max is, how big is the school? How many students are in the FNTT program? We've got around 23,000 students walking around at Saxion University, spread over 3 locations, Apeldoorn, Deventer and Enschede, Enschede being the biggest location. Within fashion and textiles, I think we have around 600 students at this moment, and they are spread over the 4 bachelor years. Yeah, and I'm not sure, and Jenna can answer that better. Eh? So 23,000 sounds like a lot, right? It sounds like we often refer in the Netherlands to education factories. You know, it's like a lot of students. But do you notice that when you're studying here, Jenna? I would like to ask you.
No, I don't think so. I've been to like lectures in like South Africa in my home country, and it was like 100 students in one room and one lecturer teaching the whole class. So it's much more personal at Saxion. It's like you get individual attention if you need it. If you're struggling, then they will come and help you, and you can always set up a meeting. And yeah, it doesn't ever feel like you're like a fish in like a big pond.
Okay, good. That's a good addition, Jenna. Good to know. Max wants to know again, elaborate on the option for the fourth year. So the third and the fourth year are more open, and you can choose to do an internship first of 6 months, then doing what we call smart solutions, which is an interdisciplinary semester where you will be working with students from total different studies at Saxion. Yeah, and that is again a new challenge because then you will learn to work together in a project group from different study backgrounds, yeah, which will be quite challenging but also very interesting. Um, and then there's also an opportunity to do a minor, and lots of our students actually do what we call exchange minors. So they go abroad for 6 months to one of our partner universities. Yeah, and we've got at the moment around 40 partner universities to choose from. So, and that's both inside of Europe, but a lot of them also outside of Europe, in the production countries, in the Far East, where we have partnerships with those universities, and then you can go there for 6 months, and then you get to study in those universities, and then we send you out in most cases with a few more students, yeah, so that you're not out there on your own and left to left to the university, but there is a partnership. So there's people at the university level that are taking care of you as well. And the good thing about going on an exchange minor to especially production countries is that you will often get the chance to visit factories as well. And there's no such thing as the real life experience. If you go into a factory and you see live what is happening out there, it will definitely help to understand the situation, and the challenges that we are faced with in the industry. Is that enough answer, Max, or do you have more specifics? So we will definitely support students to go abroad. It's not mandatory. If you really don't want, we're not going to force you to go abroad, but lots of students are actually doing it on their own because they would want to see what's happening. Good. Thank you. And there's also opportunities within Europe, right? So it's not just that you have to go far away, but there's also opportunities in the UK or in Denmark. And why would you go to those places? Because sometimes those fashion universities have a different emphasis, and they sometimes focus in Denmark, for example, on a lot of in-depth pattern making. Now, if you're really into garment making and you want to deepen your skills on pattern making, and then we're not offering enough challenge for you, then you could pick up on that minor and go to Denmark, where you get all the ins and outs and you become a fit specialist on pattern making. I saw there are partner schools in New York and Michigan. If that's mentioned, I would definitely. I don't know the latest status on all the schools that we're dealing with, but yes, we have a broad spectrum of universities that we are working with. And I'm not sure if New York and Michigan are on our list as well, but that's something to find out. I know we have started up a partnership with some American university. Not sure where it is right now. The Michigan, I think, is more of a Saxion broad partnership, not specifically for fashion and textiles, I believe. But if you want to know specifics, just we can find out for you. Let us know. Okay, we're nearing the end of the session. Lots of good questions from you guys. I would like to thank you for it. Is there anything left unanswered? Anything that you would still like to take away from this session? So then I'm going to close it off. Didi has given you some of the email numbers. I'm just scrolling through them right now. So there is the email address of Jenna, Didi herself, and then of the international coordinator, Ms. Eiklenkamp. So feel free to contact those people if you have specific questions on that. Good. And we hope to see you again, of course, in September. But good luck with making the right decision. And like I said, when in doubt, and if you really need further information, do contact us. We will be able to help you. Thanks, Didi. Thanks, Jenna.
Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna stop here and we're gonna leave the room.
Yes.